Yo, what's good with you? Back in black with a marathon video. If you guys are new to the channel and you love shooting games just like me, make sure you aim for that like button and shoot that subscribe button as well. It'll help you find better teammates and improve skill-based matchmaking. At least I hope so. In this video, we're going to be doing some first impressions for the game, as I did participate in the Server Slam over the weekend. So like many other YouTubers, I just wanted to throw my hat in the ring as far as getting my opinions and feedback out there. And I will say, as a preface, I did go into this a little on the optimistic side, as my most played game on the PlayStation in general was Destiny 1, and I am a big fan of Bungie, and I played a lot of Halo on the Xbox 360 as well. So I am on the side of hoping for something good, despite the general negative sentiment online concerning the game. But neither here nor there. I guess the first thing that I should talk about is going to be the introduction to the game, or I guess the onboarding. So when you first load into the game, you're met with this very long-winded cutscene that does a somewhat better job explaining the game and the setting and what's going on in comparison to Destiny 1, because from my memory, I do remember playing Destiny and still not really understanding what's going on as far as like every mission I completed in the campaign. But even through the vague disposition given in this game, I still got a better idea of what's going on as far as like the human consciousness being transmitted into these shells, and we're going to the distant planet to loot and get stuff and whatnot. So I guess the only other thing that I really could say about the intro is that it felt like they were trying to blast my eyes with neon and give me a seizure, which leads me into my next impression, which is going to be the art style, one of the more polarizing things about the game. Alright man, so I'm gonna just come out and say it. These are some of the ugliest fucking characters I have seen in a shooting game in a long time. And I find that so vexing, to say pun intended, because this game looks like the Vex basically went in Destiny 1 and took over the entire company at Bungie and their ideology on how they should design a character. But don't you find it also ironic that Concord and Marathon were announced literally at the same time or at the same show, and that they end up both looking like this, and that they are heavily scrutinized and criticized for their art style in particular? I will be a little bit positive and say that it's not that bad when you're actually running around the map and looking around. It still is a little too highlighted for my personal taste, but it's not the end of the world, and I don't hate color or anything like that. And again, when it comes to the vegetation and the landscaping and stuff like that, they did a really good job. It looks great. It's just that the characters, they're so fucking ugly, dude. Oh my god, they're so ugly. Thankfully, this is a first-person game, so you don't really have to suffer it too much, but I can see where a lot of the scrutiny for this game comes from, to be quite frank with you. I want to loop back around and talk about the menu and the UI in general a little bit, because in my humble opinion, I personally don't feel that it's that intuitive. As far as loading up the game and getting into an actual match, it's not really that quick in comparison to Call of Duty. Well, I guess old school Call of Duty in that nature. You really gotta slow down and read everything that you're doing, whether it be equipping your actual player, or even just getting a contract and choosing a faction and stuff like that. As far as actually being in the game, there's been multiple occasions where one of my tasks for a certain faction would want me to do something, and then they would just have an abbreviation for said task that I was supposed to do, and I still couldn't necessarily figure out where I was supposed to go or what I was supposed to do. So again, not really that intuitive. Another thing that lacks a lot of ease of readability is going to be each item in the game. Yeah, the ammo is pretty easy to identify, but when it comes to each consumable, whether it be the health and the shields and all the other extra things you can pick up, unless you're really taking your time and reading the description for each thing, you're really gonna have I guess a clunky experience. And in a game like this where you can lose health really fast, I guess a lack of readability is something that can really be to your detriment unless you've been playing the game for a long time. And maybe they want that kind of learning curve, I'm not sure, but If it were up to me, I would kind of want that learning curve line to be flattened a little bit and maybe a little less exponential for more people to get into the game. But that might just be the nature of extraction shooters in general. I'm not sure. Getting into the meat and potatoes, I did want to retort the gunplay of the game a little bit, and I have positive things to say for the most part. The only really bad thing I gotta say is aesthetically, some of the guns do kind of look like toys. But as far as how they behave, it does lend itself very much so to Destiny. So if you have a lot of hours in that game like I do, you should feel right at home as far as like actually shooting people, which is a very good experience. So shout out to Bungie for at least knowing how to always nail that aspect of a game. I am playing on controller, which may or may not be to my detriment, especially when it comes to looter shooters, because I know generally speaking mouse and keyboard kind of lends itself better to the backpack aspect of these kind of games. But as far as weapon archetypes, they got weapons that feel very much like an auto rifle from Destiny, the pulse rifle, the scout rifle, so on and so forth. So again, very familiar feeling for the 4,000 hours I have in that game. And yeah, I think even if you are new, you should feel right at home, or it should feel really good once you dial in your controller settings. As far as the AI is concerned in this game, I do want to give them some credit here as well. Bungie has never really lacked in this area. It reminds me a lot of Destiny in this regard as well, as the bulky guys remind me very much of the Cabal from Destiny, and the slim guys that can turn invisible or move very fast remind me very much of the Scions, if you guys are, fans or whatever the case may be. But something I can say is that the AI are actually pretty tough, and they can overwhelm you, especially when they get grouped up in numbers, or if they have a few people that have blue or purple shields. And that may be a bit much, but it also could be, I guess, the simple fact that they want you to really stay by your team and focus on team shooting. I'm not 100% sure, but some would argue that they are a little bit on the bulky side, especially when they start getting those shields and start ganging up on people. That said, because you can die really fast from the AI and from players alike, it's that much more important that you stay by your team and you guys make sure you have a good team composition, which would bring me into the characters. I mostly played Medic over the weekend and tried the other characters sparsely here and there. I would argue the Medic is damn near essential. Another good pick is easily going to be the Recon character, because if you can spot other players, then you just have that much more of an advantage in these 360-degree battlefields. I guess the only other character that I could really think of off the top of my head that is really good to pick is going to be the shield guy. But other than that, I mean, none of them really seem to be that OP. It's just that there's always some that you just want to have in any given situation. I just thought about this, but as far as running around the map, sometimes it can feel a little barren, and some of that probably comes down to the player count as far as how many squads load onto the map. But I think another part of that kind of comes down to the lack of wildlife on the planet. I mean, there's some small buildings here and there that have these little creatures or goopy creatures that you can shoot, but there's still some times that I'm running around and I'm like, this planet feels kind of empty, especially when you're moving around the buildings and stuff like that, which is where you're supposed to find the robots or whatever. But what about the wildlife sections? That could be boosted up a little bit more, especially if we're not going to be running into enemies, or especially if the enemies are so strong that they're killing a lot of the players, from which I heard in the reports. But I guess the only other thing that I could really speak on for the first impressions is going to be the contract system, which I think is a pretty good thing for the most part. It's just that some of the directions for some of the tasks in particular are not that clear, and not only did I think that, my friends who were playing with me literally had the same problem, where they literally just didn't know where to go or what to do to complete some of the faction tasks. And that could be an issue, especially if that's supposed to be a big part of the gameplay loop, aside from just running around and shooting AI and looking for people to shoot that are sparsely populated throughout the map. But other than that, I mean, there's not really much else that I could say about the first impressions. In a nutshell, man, it feels really good to shoot people or when you're in a gunfight, but when you're running around the map or just looking at the characters or trying to loot or complete your tasks, sometimes it does start to get a little boring or a little taxing on the eyes. And Unfortunately, I think the art style is repulsive to a lot of people in general, and that's probably going to be the downfall of this game. And I don't think it's going to perform as good as it needs to for Bungie's taste, anyways. And that's kind of tough to say. If I could link this game back to Destiny one more time, because that's where most of my recent experience with Bungie is coming from, it oddly feels like we're getting even less with this game than we're getting with base Destiny, and that's kind of crazy to say. Maybe that's why this game is coming in at $40, but despite Destiny 1 having such a underbaked campaign and, not releasing the raid and stuff like that on launch, I still had a blast playing Crucible and doing nightfalls and weeklies and stuff like that with my friends. This game, playing this over the weekend, it didn't really hit the same kind of highs, and again, that's kind of unfortunate to say, because I know this game, Bungie kind of needs this game to do really good, but I just unfortunately don't think it will. It's not hitting the same notes that Destiny 1 was, even at base, and I think a lot of that really has to do with the art style. That's probably going to be the Achilles heel, and maybe just the extraction genre in general, but neither here nor there. Let me know what you guys are thinking down there in the comments section. Did you play this over the weekend? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Are you guys kind of in the middle like I am? If you found anything I said insightful, don't forget to aim for that like button, shoot that subscribe button as well. Hope you find better teammates, improve skill-based matchmaking. Hope you guys have a lovely rest of your day. Black Guy out.